We're going to go into the area of crime next and talk a little bit about what's happening there. I want to highlight, though, that when you look at the big picture of things and what a county government does, most of the time we operate relatively invisibly, just as I've said. The operative question in parts of this county is, what did you do with our taxes? And so if I tell you that in the last 2 years, we've had reductions in our county property tax levy, which is true, and in some communities, because of the equalization rate, we've had significant drops in county property taxes. If you lived in Pound Ridge, your county property taxes are down 10% over what they were just a couple of years ago. And if you live in the community that I live in, the city of Rye, county property taxes are down 7%. That is in part because we cut the levy and in part because of equalization rate realities. But what's also important to know is that county government is more than just what you pay in taxes. County government is fixing these assets, opening that Spring Ridge pool, which was closed, getting that Glen Island beach back online through lobbying with the state after we'd used it for other purposes, fixing up playland and putting more money in capital and playland and turning on that fountain at the Croton Gorge Park, which had lay fallow for 10 years. All of these things are part of what we consider to be the accomplishments that we're trying to achieve. And all of that within the context of COVID. Now, there's some narratives out there that we have to be candid about and address, and one of them relates to crime. One of them relates to population. A little later this week, we're going to have a press availability with the representatives of the Hudson Gateway Realtor Organization. They're going to talk about what is happening in the world of Westchester real estate, residential real estate. There's a narrative out there where people say, people are leaving Westchester in droves. They can't wait to leave here because of the high taxes. Well, it's a nice narrative. The narrative doesn't correlate to our tax policies the last couple of years, but more importantly, it doesn't correlate to real life. We'll talk about population at the next setting, and when we see the census numbers, I think we'll see that Westchester population has grown, not shrunken. But right now, there is a dialogue about crime, violent crime and crime in general, that it is up everywhere, and we're awash in criminality in a way that we've never seen before. And it is true, when you turn on television at night, you might see something that's happened this weekend in Chicago. You might see what's happened in Brooklyn, a particular incident, or more broad-based circumstances. But in Westchester County, those numbers are not accurate. We have had a decrease in crime from 2017 to 2020, where we have year-end statistics, and where we can compare the first quarter of 2020 to the first quarter of 2021, we have a decrease in crime statistics. And the statistics are not made-up numbers. These are numbers that come from the New York State and the Westchester County systems of crime reporting, which we must do by law, and those reports must be accurate. If we submit an erroneous report, we're committing a crime and ourselves. Index crimes, which are very specific crimes, which we'll talk about in just a second, have decreased over the last 3 years in Westchester County by 11%. Violent crimes have decreased by 18.8%, almost 19% decrease. Property crimes have decreased by 9.4%. We've had a decrease in violent crimes with firearms in Westchester County, and the Westchester County has secured, and Westchester County meaning the county police operation and all the other operations together, an almost 400% increase in securing weapons that should not be out on the streets, illegal weapons. All of those numbers that are down represent the hard work, not of an administration per se, but the hard work of the men and women in the police world, and also those who represent us in the area of prosecution. I want to particularly show our appreciation to District Attorney Mimi Roca. She and her team, who have started now in their administration of the prosecution elements of Westchester County, have shown a great degree of diligence in working cooperatively to help make these numbers happen. So we thank Mimi Roca for that. I want to personally thank the Commissioner Sheriff of Westchester County's Department of Public Safety, Tom Gleason, Deputy Commissioner Terrence Raynor, our Chief Inspectors, John Hodges and Chris Calabrese, and our host of captains that we have as the leadership of our public safety team. And their work in concert with the local police departments have been critical. The real-time crime program, which allows for, in a regional fashion, us to be able to detect the movement of would-be criminals so we have a better chance to capture them. I'm going to let Commissioner Raynor talk about that along with some of the other initiatives of the county police. All of those things work together. They have done really terrific work. When you talk about a decrease in index crimes, what are we talking about? 7 major categories of crime: murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle thefts. These are serious crimes, and when people say crime is up, they fear that these are the types of crimes that are happening, more rapes, more robberies, and in all of that categories in Westchester County, we have had, over the last 3 years, during our tenure in office, an 11% decrease in those crimes. 11% decrease, not an increase, a decrease in crime. When we look at the statistics that we've seen over this period of time, and we compare the first quarter of 21 to 20 in some of these different areas, we see the continuation of that decrease in crime. The first quarter of 2020, the total of all in that index was 3,322 incidents. In 2021, 2,681 incidents, a reduction of over 600 incidents from last year to this year. We've had a reduction in the number of murders, the reduction in the number of rapes, reduction in the number of aggravated assaults, property total, which is burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft, in the aggregate down significantly. And those are Department of Criminal Justice Services uniform crime reporting that shows us not only did we have a decrease that took us through 2020, for which we have year-end statistics, but so far during the year in 2021. And we can continue to talk about those hard numbers in property crimes, violent crimes with firearms. It's very important to understand that on any given day, a crime can occur. And the statistics that we're sharing today on Monday, August 2nd, might be different tonight or tomorrow, depending on what happens out on the streets. And nobody can say, because we've done this over these number of days, that something horrific may not happen tonight, tomorrow, in a week, in a month, or at some point in time before the end of the year. But it's important for people to understand what is truth and what is fiction. And many times, people, whether they go on the internet, whether they hear something in a snippet and they don't quite grasp what they're hearing, or they see something from a different jurisdiction and they apply that to this, and they say, well, if it's happening here, it must be happening in our backyard. And for people who don't live necessarily in one part of the county, they may not be aware of what the total county structure is. This is a big county. Over the course of the weekend, I found myself everywhere from the southernmost port of Yonkers, right away from the Riverdale section of the Bronx, way up to Peekskill, way across to the northeastern part of the county, and down along the Sound Shore. So it's a big county. And when we give countywide statistics, that takes all of those communities into account. And the level to which a person feels safe is a matter of perception. But the hard numbers show that crime is down. Crime is down in this county. The economy is bouncing back up in this county. Our vaccination rates in this county are higher than most of our neighboring counties, all of our neighboring counties, and most of our nearby counties. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because there are professionals who are putting professional effort and work. And so again, as I asked Deputy Commissioner Raynor to join us here at the podium, to talk a little bit about what his experiences have been, I want to again compliment our Department of Public Safety and also recognize that these efforts are a joint effort of the 40 local police departments that work with the County Police Department in harmony. Deputy Commissioner Terrence Raynor.
Good afternoon, and thank you, County Exec, Deputy County Exec. You know, as the County Exec mentioned, it's really a collaboration when we think of public safety and law enforcement. When communities work well with their police departments and those local agencies work well with their law enforcement partners throughout the county and throughout the state, you have safer communities. And so I just wanted to acknowledge the more than 40 law enforcement agencies throughout Westchester that work and collaborative efforts with us and with each other to make Westchester a safe county. Specifically, I wanted to come and speak about one of the measures that our pistol license unit has employed in order to help keep illegal firearms off the street. Their efforts began back in 2017. You'll see statistics, but in 2020, you'll see that the numbers for securing firearms has increased dramatically. And that's due to the pistol license units closely monitoring pistol license expiration dates. Each time a license is not renewed prior to the expiration date, the permit holder is notified of their permit lapse and directed to surrender their firearm. In these cases, the firearm can be secured at the applicant's local police department or brought to the Westchester County Department of Public Safety for safekeeping. In cases where the permit holder may be disabled or has passed away, members of the unit may ask a responsible family member to secure the firearm and turn it over to local law enforcement for safekeeping. These actions help to keep firearms from becoming abandoned, lost, or placed in the hands of unlicensed civilians where those firearms may injure or kill our residents. And so, again, just to acknowledge the more than 40 police agencies throughout Westchester who work with us to help keep you safe. I appreciate all that you do, and I appreciate all that the county administration, led by County Executive George Latimer, does in order to provide us with the resources that we need to help keep Westchester safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is Deputy Commissioner Terrence Raynor from our County Department of Public Safety. Now, you may wonder, why are we talking about crime statistics on this particular day? Tomorrow is the designated evening all across America called National Night Out. It's sponsored across the United States for police and community to get together, usually have a little bit of a festival in a public setting where police officers and young people and their parents can meet and create that bond between the police and the community that we so desperately seek. So that you know, beginning as early as 5 o'clock tomorrow, going as late as 8:30, there will be a series of National Night Out events all across Westchester County. It happens every year. Not every community does it every year, but in Mount Vernon, they will be doing this National Night Out at Hartley Park. They'll be doing it in New Rochelle in the grounds of the police station, which is adjacent to City Hall on North Avenue. They'll be doing it at Lyon Park in Portchester. They'll be doing it in downtown Hastings at the VFW Plaza, and they'll be in Peekskill in all 4 precincts of Yonkers, and those are very big precincts in a large population area that they'll be at. And those National Night Outs we encourage you to participate in and to interact with your local police force. We have a county one that'll be done at Kensico Dam Plaza. We'll be using both our county police force and then some of the local area police forces that'll be involved. There's a big sporting activity that should be fun. And these are meant to be fun nights for these groups to connect. Now, with all of this effort being made by the police to help keep us safe, we recognize we continue to work toward reforming those things that need reform within the police world. That was part of the analysis that was done by our police reform task force that involved individuals both inside and outside of the police world. We had a tremendous report from Mayo Bartlett and Leroy Frazier. We're now in the process of implementing it. We expect in a few weeks to be more specific about one of the major recommendations, which is the creation of mental health crisis teams around the county who can respond as a primary point of response to deal with those individuals when it's reported in to the dispatcher, wherever the dispatcher is, that a person is acting out in a way that shows that they have mental health issues at hand, but there's also potential for violence and danger. And so to have mental health professionals being available to make that response alongside of the proper police response, as opposed to viewing it as merely just a police response, we think is one of the biggest, most important recommendations that was made out of this task force, and is a regional responsibility where the local police departments asked us as a county to be able to step forward and do that. So we'll talk about that as one of the many police reform actions, and many of the things that we're talking about are in the process of being implemented. There are some that are more difficult to implement, some are more controversial, and some we're going to have to work through and have conversation. Board of Legislators is in the process of drafting legislation for some of these implementations on these police reform report recommendations, and then some of them really are statewide issues for which the task force submitted those to our state delegation for their lobbying effort. But it is completely consistent to be proud of the work that the police departments do in protecting us, and at the same time talk about the need for reforms and changes that can be done and implemented in a rational fashion so that we can have the right kind of balance between the community and the police department where that's necessary, and at the same time know that the vast majority of our police officers are trying their best to do a good job. There are things that happen that are not good, and when those things happen, if they're purposeful on the part of any individual, that individual is subject to the sanctions that come, and seriously so. But at the same period of time, we are not going to paint all people by one brush. And I think what we've shown in Westchester in every one of these issues, that when we have an intelligent, balanced way of approaching things, we make progress. We haven't gotten all the affordable housing we need to have, but we're making progress. We don't have all of the climate change provisions that we want to have, but we're making progress because we acknowledge there's a problem, and we acknowledge that specific steps towards solving that problem is the only way to do it. There's always rhetoric, but then there are the things that get us results. And I'm very proud, not because I take personal credit for this, but I'm very proud that these statistics show that crime is down in Westchester, even at a time when it's up in other places. But we have good resources and professional people being focused on this issue. And again, any incident can happen tomorrow. That doesn't undermine the good that's been done. It does mean that every day we have to go out there and do a good job in policing our communities to provide you the safety that you want, alongside of the quality of life that you want here in Westchester County.